The minister gives us the principles. We have to apply them. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So Satan interfered with the relationship.
Yes, sir.
Then in our problem book, the first 2 problems in the 34 problems deal with the condition, the wretched and horrible condition of a husband and a wife.
That's right.
And everything after those problems go on the decline. What is the God trying to tell us? What's taking place? Where's the attack? On our families. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
So when we look at this, brothers and sisters, why we're going to talk more than just about people who are married is because of this. Most of the problems that end up sucking the life out of our marriages, they come with us into the marriage. Most of the problems that end up destroying our marriage, we had them when we were single.
That's right.
So I looked up an article and they listed the 9 reasons for marital breakups, and the top 3 are money, poor communication, and a lack of commitment.
Yeah.
Most of us have a bad way of handling money when we're single. So if we don't address that before we get married, we bring it into this institution and it's going to expose and ruin the marriage.
Go ahead.
Poor communication. Most of us struggle with that before. And in our lessons, we already taught that the average man only speaks 400 words well. 400 words compared to the numerous words in the dictionary. So it's letting us know we already have some baggage that we need to address. Then it says a lack of commitment. We have patterns where we go throughout life where we've had a lack of commitment. We quit the football team because the coach was too hard. We quit the cheerleader team because they were hating on my splits. We couldn't be Girl Scouts. We have a pattern of not sticking to something. Then we say, not addressing that, then we say we're going to enter into marriage and I'm going to be with this person for life. When we couldn't even stay committed to selling Girl Scout cookies. I'm saying this because it's leading up to something that we need to do. I've mentioned this before in my personal life, how I had to address an experience with my father that I had unresolved, and it came into my marriage. Where I grew up and my father would say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we will never do it. And it made me begin to not trust my father and believe anything that he said. But it also, the feeling of disappointment made me not want to be around anybody that couldn't keep their word. So when I came into marriage, if I had my mindset on a certain outcome, a certain environment in a home, if it didn't happen, I would be upset at my wife. And I had to sit back and say, man, why am I so upset like this? And in the quiet of my mind, it connected back to my father. And I had to heal then. So that's me. But as you sit in here, what's your story? What's your wound that has to be healed that has not been healed? That may be sucking the life out of your relationships. Or maybe even preventing you from even getting into a relationship. Because we can have certain things that we haven't addressed, and then it begins to give us a funky spirit. So even though you have a suit and a tie on, but you don't have that energy. Even though you have the white that represents purity, but it's something about your attitude, it's something about your personality that despite you saying, Assalamu alaikum, you're repulsive. So we got to deal with it, right? So as you sit here, are you struggling with thoughts of feeling like you're less? Self-worth? Even though you say you serve a God who says that you are the righteous, the best, and the powerful, but it hasn't been strong enough to break that out of your mind? See, this is why the process of self-improvement as given to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is essential to any preparation that a single person makes to prepare themselves for marriage and family. But self-improvement can't just be a catchphrase on Friday. Where we just talk about self-improvement. No, it has to be a 24/7 thing where I'm constantly analyzing myself. Because if we don't, we will bring our lack of self-worth into a relationship, and it will doom the relationship from the start. Listen to what the minister says. He says, prior to courting, you must have done some work on yourself before you truly seek out a mate. So as a single person, you should ask, show me some evidence of your level of self-improvement you've engaged in. Tell me something that you were struggling with that you've now overcome. And if they can't give you anything, you need to, that's a warning sign. Because people who don't engage in self-improvement are the type of people that they're always blaming somebody else. That when you point out something to them, they say, yeah, I have that problem, but look at you, you're not doing this. And it's like, yo, if I wouldn't have brought this up, you would have never been bringing this up to me. They're constantly deflecting, constantly shifting the argument. And they're doing it because they do not want to deal with themselves. So he says, how you choose is heavily influenced by your self-concepts. So all of us have relationships that we've been in. Go back and think of them. Yeah, he was just low down. She wasn't good. But then go back and say, what was my self-concept at that time? How did I see myself? And the minister says your self-concept is tied 100% to your concept of Allah. So that lets you know we already started off on the wrong path because the enemy had us believing in the spook.
That's right.
We already didn't have a proper view of God.
That's right.
Right? Then the minister goes further. He says, each study lesson is designed on the guidance of Allah to produce self-examination. The self-improvement study guides are not for you to tell me what I need to improve in. It says self-examination, self-analysis, self-correction, and to quicken in each of us the self-accusing spirit. For it is only when we awaken morally that we have to face the self-accusing spirit which leads to our resurrection. Which the minister says is an ongoing process, right? So as a single believer, I would encourage those of you who are single to engage in the process. Right? As you are single, use this time to better yourself. But you have to be honest. You have to be willing to look at yourself and say, these are my strengths and these are the things I need to work on. Don't fear being alone. Some of us are running to relationships because we don't want to be by ourselves. Right? Because doing so often causes us to enter into a relationship out of a feeling of desperation. Nobody wants to be with someone who feels that you come off as being desperate. And we need to ask some, like, do I come off as being desperate? But in order to ask those questions, we have to have the courage to hear the answer. Right? Use this time to rid yourself of those beliefs about yourselves, about relationships, or about love that have damaged you and has caused the end of previous relationships. I grew up observing how all of my relatives were not with the person that they had children for or who had children for them. And as a teenager, I said to myself, marriage is not for our family. Because of what I saw. That's what I saw. What did you see? A brother told me he realized that his lack of respect for women came from being raised in an environment where his mother lived with a bunch of other women who all they talked about was manipulating men. So as a young boy, he grew up to be a man, and he had a distorted view of women because of his experience. But do you take the time to examine and question the man or woman who you want to be with? What was your view? Right?
Sir.
So when we look at it, if those thoughts and those aspects of our personalities are still with us, they're going to destroy the current relationship. When you look at this, you came in here today. Everybody was searched.
That's right.
So we know for sure there are no drugs in here. There are no guns. Why can't we take that same principle and apply it to our level of self-improvement and examine and search ourselves?
Come on.
So in this book titled The Journey to Get the Love You Desire Begins With You, I sat down using the principles of self-improvement and I wrote down on the list all of the relationships I was in. Now, Talking about those ones in elementary when you pass the note and say, check this if you like it. So I wrote them down. Then I had a column where I wrote down how did they end? How did they end? But then I wrote down in the third column was, what did I do or what didn't I do that caused them to end? See, some of us will stop on that, what they did. No, let's focus on what didn't I do or what did I do? Because sometimes the relationship goes to an end because we didn't stand up and assert our self-worth. We accepted treatment that we knew in our hearts didn't make us happy. So we have to go back and address that. And it's hurtful. It's nothing like realizing you've been played a fool. That hurts. Ego be bruised. Damn, man, everybody saw me looking like a sucker. And they was laughing at me. But it's accepted, heal from it, and move on. So look. There's a principle in our lessons, in the English lessons C1, where Master Farah Muhammad, when he's teaching our babies, he talks about this. When he talks about what happened to us, it says this on 32. Well, they wanted to go to their own country, but they could not swim 9,000 miles. Then they asked him, why didn't their own people come to get them? Because their own people did not know where they were. There's a relationship, there's a principle in this of self-improvement. Imagine if I go to your city and 2 in the morning I call you and say, hey, I need you to come and pick me up. And you're like, yes, sir, Brother Willie, where you are? I can't tell you. Like, well, why you can't tell me? Because I'm ashamed. So they can't help me because I don't want to tell them where I am. And oftentimes God is sitting back watching us struggle in our shortcomings because we are too arrogant to admit this is where I am, God. I'm confused here. I'm struggling here. This is how I feel about myself. I know I shouldn't feel that way about myself, but this is how I do. Help me, Allah. Allah already knows, but he wants to see, can we be humble enough to take our issues to the altar of God? How do you enter prayer with an arrogant mindset and you say you serve a God who knows everything? So just admit it that this is my shortcoming. Help me get out of it, right? So we have to use this time, brothers and sisters, to examine the positive and negative things about ourselves. They've done studies, brothers and sisters, that talk about how you really need to start with examining your relationship or lack of relationship with your parents. It says this in this article. Love life got you down? It might be time to take a look on your teenage years. Your relationship with your parents during adolescence has a profound effect on your romantic relationships later in life. Think about that. And the study shows that those who had a healthy relationship with their parents in teenage years tend to go forward and have a healthy relationship with others. As you sit here, married or not married, how much time have you put in examining your relationship with your parents? And our parents did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had. Some of our parents, out of the frustration of being black in America, they've said things that hurt us, and we're still dealing with them as adults, but we have to forgive them.
Yes.
Right.
As Allah says in the Quran, you lower the wing of humility to our parents.
Right.
They didn't know,
That's right.
but we have to engage in the work, right?
Yes, sir.
It trips me out if you're single and you're saying that while you're single, you should be growing and learning how to study and develop the skills you need to help you be successful in a relationship.
Yes.
Most people tell you communication is key in a relationship. Are you going to wait to start becoming effective or efficient at communication when you get married? Shouldn't you be working on that right now?
That's right. Come on,
When
Will.
people always tell me communication, I ask them, when was the last book you read about communication? Man, you know something, I haven't at all. So why are you telling me communication is needed and you ain't read anything? That's like standing in front of a train, you see it coming, but I'm not moving.
That's right. I ain't moving.
Right? Then as you study, brothers and sisters, you have to grow to know yourself. Right? Do you know that experts say you spend the most time shopping when you go into a shopping center and you don't have an idea what you want? When you say, I'm getting these 3 things, you end it now. I know that's a challenge for y'all sisters. Right? Shouldn't you have that same mindset when you're trying to find a mate?
Oh, come on now.
Don't just say in your mind, write it down. I want this, I want that, I would like this, I would like that. You may have to do some type of adjustment, but at least have an idea of what you want. Don't just go in there all willy-nilly and you don't know what you want. Because you're going to end up getting anything because you don't have it. So Allah says we only get what we strive for. Get your health and your fitness together.
Yes, sir.
I know we like to think that we're in this little fairy tale world. Right. Appearance is important.
Right.
Brothers, you don't come to this. Islam is not supposed to rob you out of your smoothness.
Go ahead.
He was brother down. Look how he did. Look how he made that seersucker suit match. Brother Shaw. What's wrong with you buying a nice suit?
Right.
At some point, we got to transition out of those stepping style suits.
Come on now.
You don't need to be wearing those suits with no crocodile print.
Teach, Muhammad.
Don't forget that. Same thing with sisters. Don't be on. How are you single on social media and your profile picture is somebody meditating? It's not even you. So if somebody wants to know you, they don't even know who you are. Yes, we know you love the minister. Yes, we know you love black people. But who are you as a person? Right? Everything is real. And you'll think, here, look what the minister said. The process of marriage begins with a natural attraction to someone's physical characteristics of the male and the female, which please each other. The natural attraction then leads to the desire to be closer to that person whom you are attracted to, which leads to communication to get to know each other beyond the physical points of attraction. But the first thing is physical attraction. So you can get into that, he's supposed to love me for who I am. Or the sister's too superficial.
Come on now.
Keep playing. Lenore, we went to, it was something taking place in Houston, the children's, whatever. But I had me a suit, I'm saying, that's the suit I'm wearing on Saturday. I want to make sure I'm around all of them single sisters. What's wrong with that?
Right.
You better believe it.
Right.
And you should feel good about yourself.
Right.
It's the same thing. Islam didn't come to make you just look, you don't look happy in your uniform.
Right.
You lose your flyness.
Right.
You're supposed to still look fly. You wear glasses, get you some glasses to make you look fly.
Yes.
Get you some earrings or whatever. You know, had a little baby band come out. Keep it real. Let me tell you something. Men, we physical.
Right. That's right.
You led by this first.
That's right.
You're talking about he should know my spiritual.
Right.
Be this.
That's right.
Right?
Listen.
Then, brothers and sisters, back to self-improvement. The more you work on yourself, the clearer the idea you will have of the kind of person you want. Why did Master Farah Muhammad teach us or leave with us the history about the self-creation of Allah and what he went through? We are taught that after examining himself, he saw some things that he was not pleased with, and as a result, he created you. He created his spouse. After Allah looked within himself, he created his spouse. So maybe you have not attracted a spouse yet because you have not examined yourself. Farrakhan put it this way, using the principle of multiplication. He said that if you are a 2 and you want a relationship that's on the level of a 10, using the principle of multiplication, if you have went to somewhere other than public school, you know that 2 times what gives you 10?
5.
You know that.
Yes, sir.
But what if you haven't put in any work on examining yourself?
Amen.
Then you don't know you're a 2. You might be multiplying yourself times a 10. And you say that I want somebody confident but then you haven't done the work on yourself, then you attract somebody arrogant.
Wow.
We can't escape studying ourselves. But guess what? The only person that can do that work for you is you. The God said, after you have learned and studied Islam, now you must apply it.
That's right.
Not the minister,
That's right.
not the messenger, not your sister captain, not your brother captain. You must apply it, and you must secure some benefit for yourself. Also, growing your relationship with Allah beyond the superficial and the cliche way.
Right.
Make Allah sufficient. That's what the minister says, sisters. The black man is God.
Right.
We have to grow beyond that. That when you speak about the sufficiency of Allah, somebody hears it in your testimony and say, Allah is sufficient for her.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Allah is sufficient for him.
Right. Right.
So there's a scripture in the Bible that when Jesus walked into a well, he found a woman.
That's right.
And he asked the woman for a drink, and she got into the titles. But then Jesus started immediately running down her past relationships.
Yes.
But why would Jesus bring that up?
Right.
Why didn't he talk about her sins? Why didn't he talk about her lack of prayer? He
Right.
brought up her past relationships. Why was she at a well? Why wasn't she in the synagogue?
Right. Right.
But maybe Jesus was telling her that you have been drinking out of the wrong wells. You've been running to all of these people trying to get a drink to quench your thirst, but you have not come to me. And the servant of God told her that if you knew me, you will be asking me for a drink of water. And the water that I will give you, you will never thirst. All praises be to Allah. So, what does that mean for us? When the teachings found you and I, we were looking for a drink of water.
Right.
We have been running from pillar to post trying to get something to drink.
Right.
But Allah is telling us that if you connect to my servant,
Right.
who is an embodiment of the Zam, the well of Zamzam, then he can give you this flowing water that can continue to give your roots what you need so you can blossom in your Islam. But if you only go to my servant part-time, then you're only going to grow part-time.
That's right.
If you don't really take the time and listen to what the servant says and then use it and examine ourselves, you and I will continue to run from one well to another well. We have to hit the pause button and go back and listen to all of those lectures you and I think that we heard.
Right.
Because in our early stages of Islam, many of us have only listened to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to hear him kick the behind of white folks. And we've missed those principles that he's given to us for us to grow and to be Muslims. Go back and hold the message to the black man. Don't get to this thing where we feel, I know. And I've been in the nation 30 years. I know this. You read in the scriptures, there was a man who was around the well for 38 years, but he never got in the well. Some of us have been in the nation, but has the nation been in us? That's the courtship process. When you have the time, go to the library and research the mating habits of animals and insects. It's interesting. You will notice that their selection process is intentional in everything that they do. Their mating habits are not accidental. Go and study this bird called the bowerbird. This bird, when it wants to mate with a female, it builds a lair. And it doesn't just build a lair. These birds have an attraction for the color blue. So he goes all around and gets the color blue, and the bird decorates the lair. The bird puts the piece in, he steps back and looks at it. Puts the piece in, steps back and looks at it. And then when he has it finished, he gives the call and the woman comes. And then she's not tripped out just because he built the lair. She examines it. And if it doesn't fit her standards, she leaves. Now that's a damn burden. That's a bird that does not have a college degree. It doesn't have a PhD. It's never been to MGT class. So if a bird can do that, how can you not? If a bird can do that, how can you?
Right.
If a bird knows that I have to have something in order to, when this woman comes, how can you think that you living with your mama's cousin, brother, sister? But I want a woman of God. What's your standards? That when he comes, right? In the Holy Quran, Allah gives you an example to study in Mary. Mary wasn't into all that just because you say the Spirit of God is in you. He was like, Allah sent you this Spirit. She was like, and I'm examining your mind. Shouldn't you do that?
Yes,
You shouldn't be falling just because every picture on this Instagram is him out with the final card. Him salute. Him saying the minister did this. Okay, that's good. But let me see if Christ is really formed in you. Or is it just on the outside? Or just look that way? Or are you just using the servants of God's name and his ways as a way to fish me in? To trap me? When it says that Christ, my Bible scholar, Christ is the head of man.
Yes, the head of man.
And man is the head of woman.
That's right.
If that is the case, sister, what is your method that you will use to find out if the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is in our head? You know how you can tell what's in our head by what our actions produce.
That's right.
Right? Like one of the sisters said this weekend, you can't be talking about you love the minister, you love the teacher, and on Instagram they keep seeing you liking these sisters with damn near no clothes on. Trying to be slick like this. Trying to be slick. All praise is due to Allah for the black woman. Morris Chestnut with his shirt off saying, Same way. We got to do this homework. But this is another thing, brothers and sisters. If you study the mating habits between animals, it's competitive. Just because you're a bird don't mean you're going to get a female bird. You got to compete. I was watching a clip this morning. This wild bird laid that lair out. And he thought he had it. Then the narrator said, and then came his arch enemy. And this other power bird came up. I don't know what he said to him. She looked at you going. He was walking around looking sad. So you can't be, man, I thought she was interested in me. How's she gonna go and talk to that other brother? Right. It's competitive. You better come in on your game. Understand the process of the courtship process, it's really the answer to the enemy depriving us out of one of those three bodies of knowledge, the process, the science of mating. We always talk about it, and the enemy deprived us out of the science of warfare, the science of business, the science of mating. Have you realized that God has given you a replacement? The courtship process. But how do we value it? Has the courtship process become the Islamic twist on boyfriend and girlfriend? Now we can do hashtag I'm down for him, hashtag she down for me. Is that what the courtship has evolved into? In the courtship, it says we're given 6 months to a year, right? And this, brothers and sisters, And as believers in the Nation of Islam, we have to be at rest in our heart that as members, this is the process that we said we have agreed to use with the interaction between man and woman.
Yes.
Some of us want to have some of that and some of the world.
Oh.
I want to just get the opportunity to talk to you for a couple of months before I put the courtship paper in. No. There's some basic information you need to know, but there's no constant DMing me. If you want to really know the courtship process. And a lot of times what some of us are doing, we are judging a sister, judging a brother from a distance. From what somebody else said about them. That brother is this way. That sister is this way. I can tell you when I was going to brothers, asking them about like, yo, I'm interested in Sister Michelle, what you think? And the brother said, man, she all into that female liberation stuff. Damn, she been independent for these years, she ain't gonna listen. He didn't know my wife. He never had no personal conversation with my wife when she was single. But when I had the opportunity to court her, I found out why my wife is the way that she is on things.
Go ahead.
My wife has a disdain for anything that looks like brothers are getting is a double standard between brothers and sisters. And she gonna say it. But where that came from is that she grew up in a household watching her mother give a double standard to her brothers. But if I was just listening to what the brother said, but when I got the chance to meet my wife, I saw where it came from and why it came. So stop thinking you can find out about a sister completely on social media, completely just from a distance. Stop being scared and put the papers in. I wasn't listening to me. I was kind of nervous about putting the papers in, but this is what I said to myself. I said, man, I don't want to live the rest of my life wondering what if.
That's
So I'm about to put it in. If she said no to this, I'm going to get myself together, probably pick my face up.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to move on, right?
Right.
See, the process of courtship is not like the world. And we have to be comfortable with that. Many of us struggle with the process because we have really not come to a place in our hearts and our souls where we accept the principles of it. Some of us are struggling with why we got to have chaperones. Right? Some of us are struggling with why I got to spend so much time trying to find out what he's doing, what his goals are, what her goals are. Some of us are struggling with I can't see myself being with a person, interacting with a person for 6 months to a year, and I can't kiss him. I can't hold his hand. I can't tell him just hug me.
No.
Some of us are struggling that some of us have never in our lives ever went more than 2-3 months without having physical intimacy with somebody. And we're in a relationship so much. So we don't know how to do that.
Right.
Because oftentimes that has been our trump card, our sex.
Right.
That's how I'm gonna make him love me.
Right.
That's how I'm gonna make him. He's gonna know that this is the value. Not about your mind, but your body. Is that right?
That's right.
So we have to get rid of those things, right? And brothers and sisters, if you understand the courtship, one of the major complaints of sisters in the world about relationships with brothers, they say that they don't know where they're going. Like I've been dating this guy for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years.
That's right.
And I don't know where we're going. But in the courtship, you enter in knowing, Jack, you got 6 months into a year to make your mind up.
Exactly right.
And I'm gone.
Right. That's right.
So you know. And I think I heard Brother Nuri say this. He talked about how relationship ship is at the end. Courtship ship is at the end. Where is going?
Right.
So when you enter into this courtship, ask them, where is going? Where are we going? But many of us can't ask that question because we don't know where we're going. Because we haven't spent that time adjusting ourselves. Is that right?
That's right.
We talked about how premarital sex is forbidden. We know that, right?
That's right.
Then, when the Minister Louis Farrakhan talks about how in the word courtship is the word court. We have to approach it like we're courting. Like you go in there, when they go into court, if you go in there giggling before the judge, they'll write you behind up as contempt.
Right.
You going in there trying to find out, asking them questions, coming back and ask those questions again. Go and examine the family members, right?
Yes.
Find out what was his education level. What type of classes were you in? Did you have any type of educational accommodations when you were in school?
Right.
Yeah, say it.
What's your situation with mental health? When the last time you took a health test to see if you had an STD?
Right.
What's your view of the sex act? I shared this with the brothers. Most of us come out of a world where we are taught to describe the act of sex in these terms. I want to smash.
Man.
The youngsters saying, I want to cut. I want to bend you over. I want to stab. So look at how they're describing exactly. Look at how they're describing an act that's meant for God to be a reward for those who marry.
Yeah.
And if you can describe a sexual act with those terms, then how do you view the act? But importantly, how do you view the woman?
That's right. Teach.
We have to, don't assume anything. I don't care if you've been in the nation for 40 years.
Right.
I don't care if she never missed an MTT class since she registered.
Right.
You better examine
Right.
to see if it is all the way real. Is that right?
That's right.
So when we approach this, the danger of approaching courtship as this boyfriend and girlfriend thing is that it causes us to enter into it and we don't examine our partners. Like just think about when you say, that's my girlfriend. Like, I'm gonna give you like some kind of chills. Ooh, you get all warm. That's my boyfriend. That's my boo. That's my baby. That's emotional terms. And if we're approaching it like that, we get clouded and we don't examine it. We don't examine. We miss the stop signs. We miss the warning signs, I mean.
Right.
We miss the red flags.
Right.
And then when they pop back up,
Right.
I never knew you was like this. No, you knew he was like that. You ignored it.
Right.
And then in our misunderstanding of courtship, we have narrowed the purpose of chaperones. We really think that the sole purpose of chaperones is to stop us from having sex. Man, when I was caught, I was a grown man with a car in my own house.
Right.
After we went out on an outing, I could have easily said, yo, they gone, I'm on my way. What you want to sit outside my house? That's your kind of life. Chaperones are not for that. Partially for that.
Right.
But what chaperones are for is that you should get older couples who have some example like a successful marriages, and you get them to, when you go out and y'all sit down.
Yes, sir.
Don't just use chaperones, y'all just go to the movies, nobody talking. Okay, let's go home.
Right.
No, invite them to let's come to y'all house, let's cook something up, and let's talk.
Yes, sir.
And let them listen.
Yes, sir.
Because there's some women who've been married a long time will say, baby, did you notice every time you asked him about his mama, he started talking about something else? Brother, did you notice every time you asked her, does she want to work at home or does she want to work outside of the home? You notice how much she kept talking about how she don't want to work? She just wants somebody to take care of her?
Wow.
Did you pick that up? Or are you too busy caught up in her eyes? That's what those older folks. And then you can ask them, what were the struggles that you all overcame when you were married? And this is the thing, chaperones should, the couples that you use for chaperones should not be cast aside once you get married. It's a principle to let us know this is a mentor couple for you. That when you come, as in marriage, I don't care, whoever you are, you're going to get to a point where no matter what you tell your wife, she don't see it. No matter what she tell you, you don't see it. So then you got to do as Allah says in the Quran, bring in a third party. And I do it with Brother Gilbert, I do it with several people. Sometimes the verdict is on my side, sometimes the verdict is on my wife's side. So we need to do that. But if we get into this thing, I don't want nobody in my business.
That's right.
And what happens is we take that problem and then we go to the corner, and now that problem, which really everybody is dealing with, it begins to feel like it's a burden and it crushes our marriages.
Wow.
Teach.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So we shouldn't enter into a courtship like it's a boyfriend and a girlfriend thing. Listen to me. In my teenage years, I grew up thinking that manipulating females was what made me a man.
Wow.
I was off.
That's right.
And it wasn't until the minister that changed me.
Yes, sir.
Brother, I stand before you today. The longest committed and faithful relationship I've ever been in is my marriage.
Come on.
And when I go back and compare it, like what was it? It was because the teachings in the courtship process. I made up in my mind as a single brother, I didn't want a sister that wasn't in the world, that was in the world. Right?
Yes, sir.
But Allah will send people to test you to see if that was you. That's what you really want.
That's right.
As soon as I said that,
Right.
become my ex-girlfriend. The one I had on the back of the little homecoming prom pictures, we're going to love each other to the end of the world. We had already come up with baby names. Ranisha and Rakisha. People would call me Byron, right? And here she popped back up. And she was like, when women know what you want, they try to fit into that. I don't know, but I was serious about my faith.
Yes, sir.
And also, she talked about 7-day Adventists.
Right.
But I could tell she wasn't really serious. I'm going to be honest with you. A part of me was like, man, maybe this could work. This is what I thought of us marrying. But I knew in my mind I wanted an MGT.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest with you, I was at a crossroads.
Yes, sir.
And I went and had a real conversation with Allah.
Go ahead.
I said, Allah, you know how I felt about this sister. I need you to show me if this is the one.
Come on.
And one time talking, I said, sister, she started talking about she had books about marriage. I'm like, listen, you trying to line me up to be married? I said, sister, I want somebody that's in the mosque and MGT. And when I said that, like throwing holy water on. Just because they in the mosque. And immediately, I said, that's the answer to my prayer. And cease. That's what I did for me. What are you going to do for you?
Right.
Stop trying to circumvent the process.
Right.
Learn a lesson from Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is a well-known Scientologist. Right? Tom Cruise went and got a woman, according to the reports I read, that was not into that. And he came home thinking that everything is peaches and cream. That lady had bounced. And as I saw it, I said, man, he couldn't find a woman from amongst that community. But that's the same thing with us. To me, brothers, in this day and time, in your Islam, to go get a sister out of the world will be equivalent to now LeBron James playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the finals, and it gets to fourth quarter, they need to hit this buzzer shot, and the coach puts him on the bench. Do you really want in your 40s to be dealing with a sister about why she shouldn't eat pork? Why you can't go see R. Kelly? No, we can't drink a daiquiri.
Go ahead. Chief.
No, I don't want you to. You can't walk out of the house with your pants and showing your thong. You really want to be dealing with that? When you got sisters, you really want to be dealing with a sister that you want to get married. Now you got to wait for her to come in and see if she can handle the bumps and bruises of being in the Nation of Islam. When you got sisters who've been here and they've been battle tested. And if we are honest, I don't know, maybe I'm just this way. I believe that as a man, you know when you're interested in somebody.
Absolutely. Come on now.
Like sometimes I be feeling like we need the information we need to start a courtship. Like we need to know her blood type. Did she make the honor roll when she was in elementary school? Man, you get that feeling like, I want to know more about this sister.
That's right.
That's what you need. And a courtship facilitates where you begin to find out more.
Yes, sir.
But what happens, sisters, is that too many of us are confusing courtship with marriage.
That's right.
And the standards that you will put on somebody to marry them, you're putting on to accept a courtship.
Yeah.
The standards that you will put on somebody to marry them is the standards you're putting on somebody just to fill out a sheet of paper to say, I would like to talk to you in a legal atmosphere.
Right. Yes, sir.
And the brother got to jump through all of these hoops.
Right.
We are confusing courtship with marriage.
Go ahead.
And I know we are.
Yes, sir.
Because there were some brothers from our city who extended some courtships to some sisters outside of the cities, and the sister said, I don't want to court him because I don't want to move. Like, you gotta say you're gonna move immediately you accept the courtship. That's what the courtship is about.
Right.
How many sisters do you know shut down the courtship because the brother lived in a different city or they didn't accept it? And I met a brother there in New York. He courted a sister. He lived in one city and she lived in another. And as they courted, he realized it would be best for them if they married if he moved to the city where she was. But if the sister would have not accepted the courtship, she'll still be single, talking about the FOI only want women in the world. Right?
Go ahead, brother.
People often ask, and then the Nation of Islam is not just your city.
Right.
Why you can't go and travel to some of these study groups?
Right.
They may have a jewel in there that you might find. Is that right?
That's right.
And some people ask the question, how do you know if she's the right one or he's the right one? That's only an answer that you know for yourself.
Right.
But if you are in tune with yourself, like if you've been eating How to Eat to Live for a good bit for the most, like if you're pretty decent in How to Eat to Live, at this point you kind of know what foods you shouldn't eat. Like if you ever see me with a pimple right here, that means I ate too much sugar. If you ever see me with a bump right now, I ate too much sugar. So I say that to say if you know yourself, then you will know that this is the person.
Right.
But if you don't know yourself, you're going to continue trying to, is it or is it not? Do you think I should marry him? Why are you asking me that?
Right.
Let's go to marriage. All right?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
now this during the marriage part, this is normally the part where the marriage sisters be like, yeah, that's right. Boys in the marriage, brother, that's right, tell them.
Right.
But focus on yourself, right?
Yes, sir.
As married couples, one of the biggest issues we have is that we stop doing the things that cause us to grow to love one another in the beginning.
Yes, sir.
We get complacent.
Yes, sir.
I got him now, I don't have to do that. Before, when he came home, you was smelling good, looking good.
Right.
Now when he come home, you just like, got one of them little, now what's one of them things you put on their head? Got the old grandma roll on. Man, come on, like, as soon as he hit to the door, it stank. And now that's it. He already got Assalamu alaikum. Already got a bad attitude.
Right.
What do you do when your husband comes home? Are you on the cell phone? Assalamu alaikum, and you just keep talking?
Right.
Or do you let him know, like, yo, you are here?
Right.
Stop everything.
Right.
Little bitty things like that mean a lot.
Yes, sir.
Right.
How do you, if we would have talked to your husband and say, how does she make you feel? What would he say? Don't get wrong, I try to be balanced. I'm coming to the brothers. Say something about the brothers.
Stay right there.
Remember, the minister said what produces love is us being dutiful. But we have to be dutiful to Allah. But what are you going to be dutiful to the man that Allah bless you to have? What about him? As Brother Marcus made an excellent point yesterday. That men want to know that if the man paid all the bills, he want to know that you appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And I read where it says that men, trust me, if you are married and your husband has stopped doing stuff, it's because he doesn't feel what he was doing was appreciated. If we don't feel like it's appreciated, we're going to stop. You think I'm lying? Try it. That's right. We want to know.
Yes, sir.
If we bring you one rose, we want to see you acknowledge it.
That's right. That's right.
Whatever we do, that's what we need. Is that wrong for us needing that? Because you need something too.
Yes, sir.
And it's the same thing in regard. We're going to the brothers
Yes,
now.
sir.
But they also want to feel valued. Sisters want to know that we care for them.
Yes, sir.
Oftentimes they're observing us to see how we jump and move for everybody else, and then they look at that level of excitement and that level of go-gettedness, and then they want to see if we do it for them.
Wow.
And they may not say nothing at the first time, but then when Mad Day comes, yeah, I do everything for you, but you don't move me. Let so-and-so call. Right? Our sisters, brothers and sisters, they need attention as well.
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that the mission doesn't stop when you put down the final call newspaper.
That's right.
But in some of our minds, we think that that's just the mission.
Right.
But the mission is also cultivating our homes.
Wow.
I
Wow.
always think about the wife of Lot.
Yes, sir.
What made her turn bitter?
Right.
She's a woman, the Bible doesn't say it, but I'm quite sure she wanted to be held by her husband. I'm quite sure she wanted to come home and tell Lot all about what happened today with the family. But Lot might have wanted to keep talking about his battle with the homosexuals. Could this have put a bitterness in her? Where even though she was moving physically, but in her heart, her love for her husband had now became a pillar of salt. Because she didn't feel valuable. She didn't see herself in his mission.
Wow.
She didn't see herself as being valuable. It felt like he cared about everybody else.
Wow.
And we have to do this. In my early days of being on a ministry post, I struggled with that.
Yes, sir.
And now I still try to make sure that I'm balanced. My wife and I will have arguments about me taking the trash out late. And it will go from, you don't love me. I'm like, wait, we talking about the trash. I don't love you. But later down the line, I realized that she saw that as another neglect of her.
Wow.
And it wasn't until I sat with Minister Sharif and he shared his experiences. And from my studies, every man who has a mission, who you're trying to do something, we struggle with that balance. We struggle.
Teach.
Listen to me. Nobody escapes the difficulty in marriage.
Right.
No one.
No one.
I tell people, if you got two blind people
Right.
and they never saw each other,
Right.
if they married, I bet you they have difficulty. You can get two deaf people.
Right.
And you seeing with them, you looking up, you did something. It's natural. So we should not, we have to stop, get out of this mindset that we enter into thinking that marriage is not going to be difficult. The difficulty is there to help us grow together.
Right.
But we run from the difficulty, right?
That's right.
Instead of facing it.
Yes, sir.
There is no mystery God.
Right.
If you saw somebody driving and they took their hand off the steering wheel and they crashed, would you be surprised?
No.
Because you know they're going to crash because they took their hand off the steering wheel.
Yes, sir.
But how many of us take their hands off the steering wheels of our marriage? Where are you God in your marriage? You want your husband to love you? What are you doing to keep that love? You want your wife to love you? What are you doing to make her feel loved? Because she can't give to us if her tank is empty. And one of the major things that sisters want, one of them, is for us to listen. You often hear me talk about this. I read a book. I don't know how it works, but it works. The man said that when women have the opportunity to where their husbands listen to them,
Right.
it produces a chemical hormone in them that makes them feel happy.
Wow.
And he said that really you just listen without trying to solve their problems.
Right.
And I said, well, let me try this.
Yes, sir.
So I was home one night, I said, let me try. My wife was talking. I was like, wow. I said, wow. How did that make you feel? God is my witness. That's all I said. It was like 2 hours. And the next morning, my wife woke up all happy. She said, I really enjoyed the conversation. I was like to myself, I ain't even say that. But also what causes our problems in marriage, some of us stop being students. In the early years of the marriage, we listened to every lecture the minister said. Now since we got 2 years under our belt, we don't need him anymore. We don't read anymore. We don't go and get books that can help us do certain things, learn certain skills. And I'm going to tell you, as members of the Nation of Islam, our male and female structure is under grave attack. Because you and I still believe in roles in a marriage. The man has his role, the woman has his role. But we live in a society that is changing that. So think about the pressure that is put on. Some sisters, if they're saying, if there's a sister who completed college and she tells her other peers who are not in the nation, even though I completed college, I'm going to be a homemaker. They look at her like,
That's
girl, is you crazy?
Right.
You went to Xavier University,
Right,
now you gonna
right.
be a homemaker?
Right.
So then it makes them question, well, should I do this?
Right.
But if you and I don't pay attention, those outside stresses begin to destroy our marriages.
That's right.
Right? You have to be careful about what you take in. Right?
Yes, sir.
Y'all okay?
Yes, sir.
This is the other thing. Don't minimize that men and women are different. There's a book called Why Mars and Venus Collide. And the reason why I mention that book, because to me, he's using it's the principles of the Most High Elijah Muhammad. He's talking about men from Mars, women from Venus, but he's saying that we're different. In the one called Why Mars and Venus Collide, he has scientific research to show that we are built differently and we handle stresses differently. You all focus on the details a lot. We like look at the bigger picture. Is that right?
That's right.
And listen to this article. It's called The Evolutionary Psychological Science. Listen to what they said. Found that women appreciated, I'm going to go back and read here. It says this: showing emotional commitment is the best way for couples to make up after an argument. According to a new study, that means they studied this. They just ain't get on social media and just post it. But surprise, surprise, the research found that men and women tend to do this differently and expect different things from each other as well. That men have a certain way we feel that an argument should be corrected, and you all have a certain way. It goes further. It's the study found that women appreciate it when male partners spend time with them after a conflict and ask for forgiveness and show remorse, and even shed a few tears. Now you're dealing with men. You're dealing with men. Check this out. You're dealing with men who came up with their mother might have punched them in the chest and said, "Stop that damn crying."
Right.
Men don't cry.
Right.
Men don't show weakness.
Right.
But if you're looking for a man to show remorse and show a little tear, he ain't doing it. And that doesn't mean that he may not feel remorseful.
Right.
But if that's what you're looking for, you say, he's not really serious about apologizing.
Right.
Then it goes further. Listen to him say, well, men, and if this is true, please say it. Men, on the other hand, consider kind gestures and sexual favors as the best way to apologize. No, they don't want to say that. They left me out there. They left me out there. Here's another thing, married couples. I know, because we don't normally talk about this when we talk about marriage. Stop underestimating the role that physical intimacy plays in a marriage.
Yes, sir.
But maybe you don't understand what physical intimacy is. Stop underestimating the role that sex plays in a marriage. All right. Do you know I went to a city and I asked those who were there, I said, how many of you by a show of hands know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wrote an article that appeared in the Final Call newspaper titled The Purpose of Sex and Marriage, and nobody raised their hands? Think about that. The man of God wrote an article talking about that, and nobody knew, and they had been in the nation for over 10 years.
Yes, sir.
So here's an excerpt from what the minister said.
Yes, sir.
He says the institution of marriage allows for the lawful sexual union between male and female in the eyes of Allah, God, and society. Since both male and female should dedicate their lives to the will of Allah and the great struggle in the journey of meeting with Allah and the great struggle in the union of two, then the pleasure derived from sex is divinely given. Saying that this is what Allah has given husband and wife as a divine gift. He says it's divinely given to enhance the union. He's saying that sex between a husband and a wife who love each other and striving to do Allah's will, it enhances the union.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He says, as well as recharge the electrical energy of the male and the female, that they might continue the great journey and struggle of life. So, Brother Captain and Sister Captain, people feel like they're not recharged. He said these two properly motivated allows sexual union to be a life-giving experience, not only for procreation and continuance of the life of the species, but it is invigorating as well as life-giving to the marriage and the struggle of these two to become one. That's where the power comes. Now, we almost done, all right? Get these points. In marriage, sometimes what stops us from sufficing each other's needs is a form of arrogance. Your wife is telling you, this is what I need from you. I need you to do this to make me feel. But we say, I'm going to do something else. She says, I like back rubs.
Yes, sir.
And I like back rubs from your hands.
Yes, sir.
And you say, just take this Belladonna card and I got you a back rub. But she wants it from you.
Yes, sir.
Even if you got to start off just rubbing her back and you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You're watching a YouTube video. If he says that I like this, I like it when you prepare my food this way. I don't like my food scorching hot when my tongue is falling out. But you continue to keep bringing him bean soup that the man, after he take a spoon, he got to rush to eat off. We have to serve people the way that they want to be served. That's the way that's their love language, right? Some of us can't serve our spouses because we're still holding on to old pain. How do you do that and you have a process of atonement? Right?
That's right.
Some of us are not doing it because he ain't doing it for me, so I ain't doing it for her. We into this tick for tat. If he do it for me, then I'm going to do this. It's not a marriage.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
Some of us cannot fulfill our mate's needs because we have not been effective in telling them what we want. We just want them to think about it. They should know. But why don't you want to tell them? Because if I tell them, it takes away from the spirit. But let me tell you this, if you don't tell them, you're not going to get it. So at some point, we just go through this period of teaching and training one another, right? At some point, brothers and sisters, we can't just take what we learn in our respective classes and never use it in our homes. Right? Let me quickly run through this. Last time we did this, we had to end up doing a part 2. I know people are coming back on tomorrow. Right? So we'll stop on that point. Let's talk about divorce. Listen, we know that divorce means when it ends, right?
Yes, sir.
When that marriage comes to an end. And we're seeing what's taking place where people are rushing into marriages, and you can go get a license within a couple of months, you can get all of this stuff, but you can go get a marriage license just one day.
That's right.
But you and I cannot allow the failing marriages to cause us to want to get away from marriage.
That's right.
We should try to find out what made those marriages fail and study them so we can say, I'm not going to repeat it in our life.
Yes, sir.
Some of us are getting divorced because we're married to people who no longer believe.
Wow.
And they don't want to say they no longer believe and they're tired of living the Islamic life. So they come up with all of these reasons of why you're so bad as a husband or a wife. But really, they want to be in the world. And one indicator how you know they want to be in the world is that when the divorce ends, they leave the mosque. And they immediately jump into worldly things. But they didn't have the courage to say, I no longer believe in it like that. And it's frustrating to be with you because you do. But instead make you doubt yourself. When you were a believer in the situation and they were not. Right? So when we look at that, brothers and sisters, with the divorce, the minister says there's a way as Muslims in which we go about a divorce.
Yes, sir.
We just don't, there's a way that the sister should be taken care of for a certain period of time.
Yes, sir.
And it says that, he says in the Quran that you should send them off with a good sending off. You don't marry a sister you've been married to for 20 years and now you divorce and all of a sudden now for the first 3 months after the divorce she on her own.
Right, right.
When she's been dependent on you for her livelihood.
Right.
God.
Right.
But the way that we handle a divorce shows something about our character.
Come on, teach.
You don't treat the woman that gave birth to your children like she a dog because the marriage is not there anymore. And then as sisters, this is why you have to be knowledgeable about what's going on in your marriage.
Yes, sir.
You need to know about the finances.
Yes.
You need to know about the accounts.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? You need to know about where there's been situations where you having people, you don't, if somebody's buying property, you don't let them buy property and your name is not on it. Right? If that is the case, you write some type of adjustment where no, there's something that's going to happen where I'm taken care of. But as men, we shouldn't do that. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Y'all okay?
Yes, sir.
Let me keep moving on. I'm skipping some parts. Talking about this healing. And the minister says, you know, divorces, when divorces take place in the minds, it affects the spirit of the minds.
Yes, sir.
So I be telling brothers when they be having trouble, I say, listen, souls, you got to make this work. We can't have no L's. We can't have no L's. We don't need no money. The spirit is getting good. We can't have no divorce. Whatever you got to do, let's patch them back up. Get back in the ring. You can't have no L's. Lastly, I'm closing on this. Lastly, this, brothers and sisters. As we close talking about this weekend, I hope when I was in high school, there were sisters who I was interested in. But I never approached them because I didn't think that they would be interested in me. You know, those are the type of sisters that always had the bellies and the polos on. You know? Always had the stacks. If you from New Orleans. Every once in a while, I had a little polo. It may come from Rubenstein. I might have got it from Steinmart. I saved up to get some belly spiders. You know, that's bellies of these shoes, right? But I was interested in, but I didn't think they were interested in me. And years after high school, I would meet them. They said, boy, you didn't know I had such a crush on you.
Wow.
And I was like, damn, I had a crush on you. But I didn't move on it because I didn't think I was good enough. Now you may say, Brother Willie, why are you mentioning this? I'm mentioning this because I hope you didn't travel all the way down here and didn't make an attempt to enter into a courtship with a sister or a brother because you think you're not good enough. I hope you didn't do that. So I don't know how much longer you're going to be in the city, but you got another chance. And if you came in, you didn't find a court mate. That doesn't mean that you're not valuable. That just means that the person that you wanted, they may have not had. They may be at Savior's Day. They may be at something that you give in your city.
That's right.
But at least you should have came here and the ice should have been broken. Where the ice should have been broken, where now you know how to approach your sister and conversate. You know, you know how to approach a brother in righteousness, in the minds, and spark up a conversation. We had a whole list that the sisters went through talking about. This is how you know a sister is interested in you. Now, if you didn't come back and you missed that, you can't see it. Had a whole list of what the brothers wrote. How do you know if I'm interested in a sister? So you know. But then go back to your city and then you take the charge and begin to start putting on things in your city. There is no mystery God. If you don't do it, guess what? It ain't getting done. I don't care how much you say the messenger, the minister. If somebody don't do it, it ain't getting done.
That's right.
So let's do that, brothers and sisters, and let's enjoy ourselves while we're here. Thank you all.